If you think you're a Fortnite OG, this video will prove you wrong. Here are 223 things you should remember, and not many will get number 1, Epic's incredibly hidden detail. People totally overlooked the Maeve skin from Chapter 2. Most players forgot she even existed. But even less know about her secret ability. If you jumped into the water and started swimming, a shark tail would appear. We've had all types of rarities throughout the chapters, but the Gray RPG lasted for less than a season. They were so easy to find and not terrible at all, so they quickly got removed. They could always come back, unlike one of the rarest skins in Fortnite, Peely. Alright, I know what you're thinking, this guy is everywhere, like 80% of players have him, but what about the fully gold version? This was a super style for a secret agent outfit in Chapter 2, and in order to grab it, you needed to reach level 350, making it the hardest skin to earn in Battle Pass history. There's one feature which is still around, except nobody remembers it was originally a glitch. Back in Chapter 1, if you enabled auto pickup when walking over items, it would secretly work when down. This was a total bug and Epic quickly removed it, hoping no one would notice, until they realized, hey, this might actually be a good idea. And years later, this was turned into a feature. If you were around back then, you'll also know how everyone was desperate to become friends with an Epic employee. This is because you could join a random lobby and find someone with Epic in their name. It was an official tag and you weren't allowed to put in your own user, so you knew this wasn't an imposter. It was a way to tell you were in a lobby with an actual developer, and some players were lucky enough to get on their team and play a match with them. Sadly, it would not last long, as a couple years later, Epic decided they wanted to go undercover instead. It's not the only thing we're missing out on. OG players might recall the Battle Pass Promise. This was an insanely helpful loyalty scheme that kept us coming back. When you purchased the Battle Pass, it would automatically give you 5 free tiers for next season. No one knows why they stopped doing this, and most of us just forgot about it. Probably what Epic wanted us to do. When we revisit the Spy season, this is super easy to remember, from the Battle Pass to the POIs, except one feature has completely escaped our minds: the ability to redesign locations. Depending on how many people chose Ghost or Shadow in the Battle Pass menu, it would influence the look of POIs. For example, when Shadow won the Grotto, its cave was terraformed into a skull. Some players assumed it was always like this. When you entered, Brutus would be wearing a Shadow outfit, and all the henchmen also changed sides. It was honestly an insane detail. If you were around back in Chapter 1, you remember Ride the Pony. It was basically the first emote of Fortnite, originating from Save the World. And so when the Season 2 Battle Pass dropped, they threw this in as a dance. Except many seasons later, they changed their mind, giving Ride the Pony to everyone who owned Save the World. This created a problem, as it was meant to be exclusive to the Battle Pass, so to compensate owners, they threw in a new version of Pony Up. Nowadays, if you have daily quests and they suck, you just ignore them. Except back in Chapter 1, you could store the good ones and allow bad challenges to be replaced instead. Then, when you dropped onto the map to complete these quests, you could have landed at a forgotten POI. Behind Wailing Woods, there was a single house made of wooden builds. Anyone could edit these, letting you have insane battles without any materials. But we gotta point out the OG Animate collab. Back in Season 8, one of the Battle Pass skins was Master Key, and most players know him by this design. This is a mass version, and if you went with his base style, he looked a little familiar, with fans calling him the first version of Naruto before they got the rights to it. Kinda like how they parodied Wonder Woman and John Wick in the past. Speaking of the Reaper, everyone knows about him, but no one seems to remember how terrifying he was. This was the tier 100 skin, and back then earning it meant you were a total sweat. It was a huge meme that he was the sweaty outfit of Chapter 1, and when combined with Love Ranger's wings, you knew you were coming up against a massive tryhard. There's a forgotten POI, which became one of the most overpowered locations on the map. This was really well known at the time, but newer players might never have seen it. I'm of course talking about the Pontoon. It was a small boat that appeared offshore and would change location every match. The loot was insane, letting you grab a 7 chest, IO chest, supply drop, slurp barrels, and then 2 regular chests on top of all of that. Why wouldn't you drop here? Anyway, it was removed 1 season later, but fans loved this so much it came back in Chapter 3. A feature that'll probably never return is the Awakening challenges. These were exclusive quests that appeared in the original Marvel season. They were tailored to each character in the Battle Pass, so you'd have an entire quest line for Groot, Storm, Thor, and when you completed them, it would unlock their built-in emote, which was usually a transformation item. So you get someone like Tony Stark, and then have to do cool challenges like reaching 88 miles per hour, or using an upgrade bench to then become Iron Man. I don't know why they stopped doing this and made challenges feel really fun. Although I am glad they made a huge change to to edit styles. By now, we're all used to opening the menu and browsing different types of variants, except in the past, there was nothing like that. You just had to hit the style button and cycle through all of them to get what you wanted. It was super tedious, although I wish we still had special item shop events, like when Deadpool used it to break the fourth wall. Even if you were around in Season X, you probably still don't know about Junk Junction's secret. Obviously, most of us remember this POI, but during the season it got a hidden update. One of the destroyed buildings was actually the Tilted Clock Tower. Fast forward to the Spy season, and there's a base everyone forgot about. This building belonged to Ghost, and it was full of porta potties on the outside. It seemed weird, but if you jumped into the furthest one, it would drop you into a trap. It forced you to battle your way through henchmen and turrets in order to grab some fun loot as your reward. You have to be a generous player to remember this classic feature. Back in Chapter 1, you could gift items to your friends, and it was customizable. Let you pick your own gift box design along with a custom message. We could send whatever we wanted, which was easily abused, causing Epic to remove it in Chapter 2. Now all messages are the same, but you could get unlimited rewards from the Dial-A-Drop. This was a forgotten item that could summon loot like supply drops and cars. Sadly, a duplication glitch let you do it over and over again, forcing Epic to vault it as fast as possible. It has never returned. But over in Chapter 2, the nanites were fun to throw down and create an anti-gravity field, but they did have a secret ability. By opening the crafting menu, you can merge a nanite with a regular weapon and turning it into an alien gun. Yeah, you can turn an SMG into a ray gun, or if you had a sniper, you would get yourself a railgun. Chapter 2 had an insane amount of forgotten content. The Spy Games LTM might ring a bell, but a ton of people don't realize it had exclusive perks. After choosing loadouts, you would get a different piece of tech, whether it was the ability to double jump or running faster with your pickaxe out. One of them even forced you to dance after getting a kill. Now, only hardcore veterans will remember the OG Christmas supply drops. These are over 6 years old and were basically just reskinned into a present. Except Fortnite messed up letting us hide inside of them, with creators like Musoke and Lachlan getting wins from this.
Hey, bro!
Now, you definitely won't remember the bunker chests. These randomly appeared in the middle of the Primal season, and it had Week 7 written on top. Nobody knew what this meant or why they were here, but for some reason, they gave insane loot, guaranteeing you an epic or a legendary item. One of the strangest items could only be found if you were abducted. This was the Alien Knock Gun, and was supposed to be exclusive to the mothership until a glitch let you respawn with it, using this to troll players. Now, it had 0 damage, but let's be honest, blasting people off their builds is dangerous enough.
He might try to box me, honestly. I almost knocked him out. I think
I'm on my way.
I made him. No, where is he?
Got him!
Speaking of knockback, the Shockwave LTM went totally under the radar. They basically made Smash Bros in Fortnite. Instead of a health bar, you would have a percentage, and every time you were hit, it would go up. The higher percentage you have, the further you'd fly into the storm. It was this insanely cool mode that no one ever talks about anymore. But I do remember the most useless chest in Fortnite history. These cosmic chests were trapped inside a crystal and looked cool at first until you realized you needed to take turns hitting them. Your entire squad had to be here, making them more of an inconvenience than anything, and it wasn't even worth the loot. Now, if you've been playing from the very beginning, you'll probably recall that heals were very different. Sure, now they've been redesigned, but back then they were gray. Yeah, there was a point where medkits and shield pots had the same rarity as bandages. An actual rare item was hiding inside a cabin at Weeping Woods. We had no idea why, but you could destroy a painting and it would give you a gold coin. There was no use for this at all. It was a total accident, and yet anyone who found this could brag about it forever. One of the most underrated secrets was an exclusive Star Wars item that could only be found in an LTM. During Mando's Bounty, this was Fortnite's updated version of the John Wick mode from Chapter 1, except this time around, they released an item called the Bounty Puck, which displayed your targets and how much they were worth. You could even find these hollow pucks all the way from common to legendary, and I totally forgot about this. Now, throughout the years, we've had a lot of portable items, from the Porta Fort to the Porta Bunker, but no one talks about a forgotten version, the Porta Challenge. This could only be used in the playground mode. You would find a ton of vending machines offering different versions, and once you threw them down, they'd spawn in a mini game. Whether it was an obstacle course, a firing range, or a building challenge, this was a fun way to mess around before creative mode ever existed. I also wish I knew about the boogie boat. During the flood season, everything was underwater, so naturally the coolest POI was floating on the surface. You'd find a nightclub in the middle, letting you bust moves on the dance floor, along with sunbeds and plenty of loot. While this was a fun spot to chill out and mess around with friends, most people don't know about it because this vanished after 10 days. And I can't believe how Fortnite used to punish us for jumping off roofs. Even the smallest distance would give you fall damage back in the day. Literally walking down a tiny cliff would hurt. It was ridiculous. I'm not surprised Epic quickly changed this, but it also means most people forgot about it. We will always remember Risky Reels, a POI that seems to constantly come back. Miak gets destroyed a ton, and one time it was flattened by the block, fully wiping it out. Most players know this story, but what they don't know is that Risky wasn't fully gone. Hiding in the jungle, fans could visit a tiny POI that was a makeshift tribute, kind of like a home cinema. Some facts about OG Fortnite make you question reality though. Turns out the storm never existed on the minimap in the early days. You're probably thinking back like, no, it definitely did, but this must be some kind of Mandela effect. It was actually just a blue circle, so no wonder it crept up on us so easily. Odds are you will know about the most annoying feature in Chapter 1. You'd hear a chest in the distance, break walls to find it, only to realize you can't hear it anymore. Turns out we would break the floor under the chest, deleting it from the map. It was insanely annoying, causing players to beg Epic for a fix, and nowadays it pops open the chest. We definitely take this for granted knowing what it used to be like. You also probably know about Tuna Fish. He was a popular outfit during Chapter 2 and let you customize fish stick with all kinds of designs. The reason I'm bringing him up is because of a lesser known feature, Rainbow Ink. Looking back, most of us just assumed we did challenges to get more styles, but we actually needed to find physical ink. You had to open as many chests as possible, and as you collected this ink, you could spend it on the styles you wanted, but only if you completed a challenge or collected a color bottle. These are so complicated, it was easy to forget them. Although I wish we still had this feature from Chapter 1. Back in the day, when you landed with momentum, you could spam the jump button and keep bouncing. Let your bunny hop around the map as long as you wanted. It was probably the most fun way to get around we have ever had, but sadly, they nerfed this in a hidden update. Another way to cheese the game was hiding inside a rare LTM. In 2018, you could play Love Shot to celebrate Valentine's Day, giving you low gravity, boogie bombs, and a new item, Cupid's Crossbow. This was an exclusive redesign of the crossbow, but the rules of this LTM meant that skybasing guaranteed a win. As Valentine's Day passed, this LTM was removed and never came back. Cupid's Crossbow has made appearances over the years, but no one remembers that it belonged to this long-lost mode. And we probably learned about it from the old news feed. In modern-day Fortnite, you can expect to see a full-screen message of the day that is impossible to ignore. For more details, we have to search up the patch notes online, and even then, they don't mention everything. But back in Chapter 1, this small menu would give us all the info we needed. If only it told us about the secret Halloween pretzel. For a couple of Fortnitemares events, we could find candy around the map, but most people remember this eating hop drops, jelly beans, you name it. One that was harder to find was the 0-point pretzel. This would let you dash around the map, teleporting with the power of candy, but it hasn't returned since 2021. Once again, most of us know about the old Ghost and Shadow henchmen. You can shake them down for info, or use a phone booth to disguise as them. What players don't remember are the exclusive chests with great loot. By carrying a henchman over your shoulder, you would unlock these by holding the poor guy right up to the scanner. Let's take it back to Chapter 2, where they designed a melee weapon with entire stats, a full moveset, and inventory slot. There's only one catch though, it was unobtainable. This is the Predator Claw, a legendary item that no one knew about because, well, the Predator was the only one who could use it. He never dropped the item, it wasn't in the loot pool, and they straight up designed this just for an NPC. Which reminds me of another exclusive that could only be found during a concert. The Kid Leroy's music experience wasn't a full live event, they designed this in creative mode so no one remembers the custom weapon we used. Near the end of the concert, we had to fight off a huge wolf, and our tool for this battle, a Sunburst Gauntlet. Speaking of unique items, during Chapter 3, there was a special consumable that only existed for the summer event. They decided to cool us all down with some ice cream, and there was a lot to choose from, whether it was frozen, spicy, guzzling, or my personal favorite, Lil Whip Special Serve. You can find these from coolers and get unique abilities. Lil Whips is sold from the man himself, and it was literally an instant chug jug. They totally should have kept this in the game. From limited time items to limited time modes, there are a few over the years that no one remembers because they were pickaxe themed. As you can probably guess from the name, Pickaxe Frenzy was a regular game of Battle Royale, but with no guns. You could only hit each other with harvesting tools and rusty cans. Sure, you could get around with mobility items, but it was super unique and players loved it. The same goes for the Tag LTM. I mean, odds are you played Tag in real life, so you get the rules. This time it was playable in Fortnite, letting you tag players with pickaxes, escape enemies with impulses, and mess around with friends for only a couple days. I mean, that sucks. Forgotten modes are one thing, but it's easy to lose track of all the exotics in Fortnite. I mean, we've had a lot of them over the years, and chances are you don't remember the Nighthawk. This only appeared for a couple of seasons, and at first glance, it's really similar to the Scope Revolver, except this has a clean matte black design in a thermal scope. It wasn't forgettable just because no one used it, it was also really hard to find, only available to buy away from the Mancake NPC. There was also the Big Chill, an item that looks like a snowball launcher but fired chiller grenades instead. So yeah, you could deal knockback and cause icy feet, which sounds cool, yet it was so much worse than a regular snowball launcher. This was an exotic weapon that dealt 0 damage, with barely anyone spending their gold on this. I wonder why. Instead, they would use items like the Storm Scout sniper rifle, probably one of the most underrated snipers we have ever had. While aiming down the sights, it would reveal the next storm circle. There was even an exotic version of this in Chapter 2, and yet only YouTubers talk about it. Just like how they forgot about the Burst Pulse Rifle. Yeah, on the surface, you're like, I remember this, they were everywhere in the Alien season, but that was the normal Pulse Rifle. This version was an exotic that could only be found from the Chimera NPC or a malfunctioning vending machine. It was vaulted after just 1 week, and with it being hidden behind an NPC's paywall, no one even realized. Honestly, it's even harder to notice that fish are gone. There have been tons of consumables in the water that players don't remember. Most of them look weird, like the stink flopper that was based on the ugliest creature in the ocean, the blobfish. We also had hop floppers that gave us an anti-gravity effect, and shadow ones turning us into a ghost. A lot of people preferred the 0-point fish, letting us blink around, or even the riff version that gave an instant rotation. Epic's really gotta bring some of these back. Catching anything from the water right now, it's just boring. We already talked about alien nanites, but an earlier version of these were nuts and bolts. After the primal season, you could open up toolboxes and get a lot of them. These were the new way to craft things, but in reality, all they would do is side grade your weapon. It let you swap out attack into a lever, or your heavy AR to a burst, which basically felt like a downgrade. No one ever used this feature as a result, and it was doomed to obscurity. The Hunter's Cloak, an item that tried to be unique but ended up being useless. With meat and bones, you could craft this and it would make all wildlife ignore you. 2 major problems though. Firstly, you could just ignore them and basically get the same effect, and secondly, it took up an inventory slot, the ultimate downfall of this item. Now, some features just don't belong in Battle Royale, like the Propifier. This was one of those items from Invasion that went super under the radar. Players were more distracted by railguns, inflatables, recon scanners. The prop gun wasn't added until the final weeks of the season, and even then, it only let you choose from a small range of items to disguise as. This group of props, well, let's just say it was the most obvious ways to hide, and every so often your character would glitch, showing everyone else where you were. At least we got to use it though, unlike the annual pass. This was a prototype subscription service that would have given us every battle pass in a year, along with exclusive outfits, Astra Bash, and an unreleased character, Brilliant Bomber. When this was leaked, players went crazy for it, even hacking into their accounts. To this day, only a handful of people have seen this outfit, and she has been forgotten for years, except recently when a LEGO style was spotted in the files. Maybe she'll finally release soon. Probably not. But we are happy to know the old inventory is gone. If you played Fortnite in its true infancy, you'll know about those clunky menus and how hard it was to look at your items. But no one talks about the biggest issue, the old weapon stats screen. When you looked at a gun, it would dump every piece of info at you, even things that weren't in the game like durability. Now look, Epic, you don't have to tell us that a great pistol has 0% critical hit, we know. A change that totally went over our heads includes the thermal scoped AR. You know how the gun looks like this? Well, if I showed you what it looked like in Chapter 1, it's really subtle. Most people never realized it was changed until you put them side by side. You can totally see it now. In fact, the scoped AR was one of the many items we could summon at the end of Chapter 2, all thanks to JB Chimpansky's funding stations. You might remember these, as we used them to unlock new weapons every week. But there were hidden features that everyone forgot about. It let us spawn in mounted turrets, shockwave launchers, even a remake of the Brutes. For a real explosion, we could enjoy the propane tanks in the spy season. Because gas cans were all over the map, no one ever picked these up or noticed them, but they were a good alternative. You could throw them around, destroy builds, or even start fires. So when I was looking back at the many years of Fortnite, I saw footage of crows from Chapter 2, and it kind of blew my mind. I had totally forgot these were a thing. You can see them from miles away. These birds would usually glow a rare color and drop that loot if you eliminated them. There was even the almighty legendary crow. If you play a lot of creative, you'll know they have exclusive swords and melee items that are actually customizable. But back in Chapter 2, these were still in the works, and Fortnite accidentally released an early version of this sword into the files. Thanks to glitches involving vending machines, people could get the creative sword, and it worked exactly like an Infinity Blade for some reason. It was also huge and bulky, but with how rare this was and the fact it was exclusive to creative, only hardcore players will know about it. And even less people get to own Indigo Kuno. This was an exclusive version of the Kuno outfit that could only be unlocked in a PlayStation Cup. You had to earn this on a PS4, PS5, and only 6 6,000 players were given the skin. Barely anyone knew about it for a while, but anyone who gets told about the Indigo Kuno immediately wants it for how rare this is. For only 200 V-Bucks, you could go up to a friend and actually play the game. Nowadays, we have synced emotes for this purpose, but back in the day, this didn't exist, so you had to both own it and time it perfectly. Another unique cosmetic was the golf ball, and if you went to Lazy Links, you could really play and get a hole-in-one. Anyone who uses a Snap emote will know this is a Marvel Icon series, but what if I tell you it wasn't always like this? When it first dropped, Snap was green rarity, and when the Avengers LTM released, they added an Easter egg to do it with Thanos. Fast forward a couple years, and they even changed this to Marvel, making it the only original cosmetic to be converted. One of the most frustrating things was how you couldn't build in a huge POI. Blue Lake was near the center of the map, so you always came to this and were blocked from building. You had to place a floor before the water, and then build a bridge to get across, so another player could easily snipe you out and you'd be a sitting duck. Something you probably don't remember is the Power Up LTM. It was only available during 14 days of summer and removed the shield cap, so you could sit around for a whole game building thousands of shield. But even in normal BR, these pots used to be different. During Chapter 1, we could run around with up to 5 big shields and minis had a limit of 10. Now everyone knows about the meteor event in Season 4. While you might think it was just a comet in the sky and a cutscene in the trailer, there was more to this than you'll remember. For the last week, real meteors would fall down from the sky and crash into players. And I always get a ton of nostalgia when I see what the storm used to look like. You don't realize how different it is now until you look at the old hexagon design, and man, I miss this a lot. Another forgotten LTM is Storm Chasers Surfin'. At the start of the game, everyone got surfboards and could drive around with impulse grenades, try to throw other players in the storm, and why don't they make fun modes like this anymore? We all remember the default skins, they were our first outfits, and there was just something about them that gives you a wave of nostalgia. Maybe it's these health monitors on the wrist. Most people didn't pay attention to these, but they would show a heartbeat detector and every default had one. Something else you won't see anymore are animated loading screens. Yeah, these exist, and there are only 2 in existence. Back in Chapter 1, Lynx and Hybrid got unique loading screens that were fully animated, and you could only get them in a battle pass. So if you have these in your locker, don't overlook their rarity. I also love Retail Row's forgotten Easter egg. For a short time, there was a huge big mouth Billy Bass on a wall, and if you emoted while looking at it, you would start to dance. A total disaster is when they added account merging. With the release of crossplay, Epic allowed you to merge your Xbox or Switch account with the PS4 one, which would allow you to transfer V-Bucks and cosmetic items into one login. Great idea on paper, but it caused so many people to abuse it and get banned. Everyone's heard about the Galaxy and Iconic skins, which were exclusive to Samsung phones, but nobody paid attention to an obscure collab, the Honor Guard. If you own the View 20, you could log into Fortnite and earn this guy for free, and if you had an Honor 20, you get Wonder. One of the strangest features Epic has ever added totally backfired on them. For a couple days, if you got a friend request, a random woman would tell you in-game. If you're a big streamer, this was a nightmare.
Aw, you've got a friend request incoming. Someone wants to be friends.
Why would they add something stupid like that? Why?
And yeah, by the way, you couldn't turn it off.
Yes, Epic, this was a great idea. Thank you so much.
Another huge mistake was when they had no cap on ammo. This included rockets, so you could walk into a match, collect a whole inventory of RPGs, and just destroy people with hundreds of rockets. Something we take for granted nowadays is the ability to swim. This never existed back in the day, so if you fell off the map, you're going straight back to the lobby. It also made getting chests like this one 10 times riskier. One of the coolest items Fortnite has ever added was only available in the Bodyguard LTM. This is the Revive Grenade, and it does exactly what you'd expect, throwing this at any teammate to instantly pick them up from a distance. You probably didn't notice that they got rid of an incredible feature though. In Chapter 1, when you viewed the map, it showed these lines and grid coordinates for each section. You could use this to tell your teammates exactly where to drop. Nowadays, you have to use a compass or say it's north of a POI, which makes things way more confusing. I actually want this feature back. In fact, you can't even use a compass anymore. They also had an icon for north, east, southwest around the minimap, but I understand why they got rid of this one because it was kinda pointless. Did you know that we never used to have back blings? In the super early days, you couldn't take them off your skin, and they were fused with it like a blue squire. There was another hilarious feature during Season X which caused hundreds of pro players to rage quit. One of the rift zones at Greasy Grove was called Taco Time, and it would make everyone dance.
All right, boys.
A few moments later.
Everybody loves the feeling of sending gifts to a friend, it makes it feel good, but this experience used to be even more personal in Chapter 2, as you could attach a written message with your gift. I don't know why they removed this, but I do know why Epic got rid of transparent edits. Back in the day, when you edited your build, it would be completely see-through on removed areas, so you could hide in a box and just use an edit to peek through a makeshift window. This was insanely overpowered. Kinda like the guided missile launcher, a classic weapon that basically handed you free kills. This was so easy to use. You fired a rocket in the air and controlled it until you landed on an enemy. If this came back in 2023, people would probably crank 90s and block it, but back then, it was so easy to wipe players out. It was also extremely easy to use the vending machines. Right now, you gotta fork out gold to afford anything, and they're usually not worth it. But in Chapter 1, these would cycle through weapons and allow you to buy them with materials. Everyone saw an item they wanted and immediately went grinding for the right amount of wood or stone to get it. It was awesome. So was the hidden Easter egg near Lazy Lake. In the ground, you could find a small mine with a chest inside, but only after you looked at this POI from a top-down view, you would realize it was a fork knife. Now, one of the first pay-to-win skins ever released were the Green Army Men. It was meant to be a throwback to Toy Soldiers, except Epic never accounted for the green color. Now people are buying this and hiding in areas where they would be camouflaged. With updates, Fortnite had to change it and completely nerf the strategy. Now, you've definitely heard of Salty Springs, but at the start of Chapter 1, we never knew its name. This place wasn't called anything for a couple of months, despite being a huge POI. It's like they forgot to come up with the name. Once everyone started landing here and rage quitting, they decided to call it Salty Springs. Another classic POI was Greasy Grove, but halfway through the chapter, they removed this place and we all wanted it back. That's until players found it frozen underneath the ice at Polar Peak. You couldn't really explore it, but there was an even crazier mystery. A 100% guaranteed chest, completely impossible to reach. Everyone was trying to break through the ice to no avail, until one day a method came out that let you grab the loot by breaking the floor onto a ramp. During Season X, something strange happened. All of a sudden, glitched items were appearing around the map. They looked like crystals from afar, but once you got close enough, they would turn into a random consumable like vegetables or fruits. Nobody really talked about these, and we kind of forgot about them over the years. That's still not as random as the giant toy duck in Season 9. Yeah, under the slipstreams in the river, this guy was just chilling. It was a part of the summer update, but I would love to see him on the map permanently. Now imagine what the game would be today without turbo building. Well, we have a glimpse because it wasn't always in Fortnite. Before patch 3.0, there was no turbo building. You had to click for every single piece. So if you feel nostalgic about how easy things used to be, it's probably because you didn't have pro players cranking 90s in a second. A strat we all used to love was the combination of the shopping carts and a minigun. If you needed to get somewhere but didn't want to drag it around, you could just sit on top and fire at the ground, sending you flying in the opposite direction. While exploring, you might have come across a piano in the middle of nowhere. You could actually jump on these and play the right notes, but this is also part of a challenge. People were landing here trying to get their XP, only for other players to jump on the notes and completely ruin the challenge for them. The griefing was off the charts. You definitely were not an OG if you don't remember the old traps. Sure, we had the classics like the spike trap, but others were extremely short-lived, like the directional jump pad, a classic trick-shotting item that people would love to see back. Not to mention traps from Save the World that were brought into BR, like the ceiling zapper and the wall dynamo. Now look, I've been playing since literally day one, but even I forgot about the original inventory design. Feels like it's been the same ever since Fortnite release, but that's not exactly true. For the first couple of weeks, the game looked like this. The inventory was so rushed, they just made the grenade icon a white PNG. One of the rarest skins of all time will never release again, thanks to the Twitch Prime pack from 2018. If you linked your Twitch Prime to Epic, you could earn the Havoc outfit and Sub Commander for free. They're only available for a couple of weeks and vanish forever. To this day, they are some of the most sought after outfits of all time. And don't forget about turbo farming. This was a very niche trick in Chapter 1 that let you farm materials super fast, whether you were spam crouching or jumping with an emoticon, and allowed you to hit the weak points at double the speed. Creators like Tfue, they knew what they were doing. Something you didn't realize was missing is the infamous cartoon trail. You used to have smoke following you while running around, and I forgot about this, but it totally contributed to the nostalgia of Chapter 1. And so did Westworld. That was the community's name for this western town in the desert, but one building was more unique than the rest. For some reason, chairs started to pile up in this place until eventually there was no room left. And of course, there's even a fort fight here to introduce the house to players. Now that was an unknown POI, but a more popular drop spot was the prison. A lot of you definitely remember this. It was an unnamed location, yet everyone loved to land here, including me. It was huge with a ton of rooms and chests, but as Chapter 1 went on, it eventually got destroyed and left in ruin. Over in Chapter 2, you might have forgotten about the Marvel season's most underrated feature. Around the map, Galactus Gorges were attacking people, but you could fight them, and this is where things got interesting. After being disabled, these Gorges could be picked up and used in battle as a weapon. And you are definitely a veteran player if you remember Starry Suburbs. I'm not talking about the version from Season X, where we had loot stars and an insane Goltak SMG. Starry is actually much older than that. It first appeared in Season 2 as an unnamed location, and no one ever really talks about the original, but it was a great place to land. And honestly, I gotta bring up Fortnite's craziest throwable. Back then, all we had were items like the Portafort. I mean, yeah, these were cool, but it only threw down a tower. Pretty simple. That's until Playground Mode came along, handing us the Spiky Stadium. It spawned a massive arena that was literally the size of a POI, and I have no idea how we didn't crash the servers all the time. Unlike the item that totally broke Fortnite. Smoke grenades were only in for a couple of weeks, and the damage they left is unforgettable. As you'd expect, they made a huge cloud of smoke, which is a cool idea, but it lagged the game so bad. Epic had to remove this due to the backlash, although I hope we get it back in Zero Build one day. One of the earliest rifts in Fortnite was hidden in a basement underneath Wailing Woods. Not many people landed here, and when they did, they were in for a massive surprise. It led to an entire underground complex full of scientific equipment, but more importantly, rifts to other locations. And I don't know if it's just me, but I seriously didn't notice a change to balloons. You would have thought they stayed the same after all these years, until you look back at old footage and realize they're holding it above their head. This blocked you from using guns. It's super different from the version we have now. One of the cutest POIs we have ever had were these builds spread throughout the island. You'd land here and be able to edit them and customize it, but look from afar and these aren't random builds. They're all in the shape of an animal, whether it's a fox or a llama. They didn't serve much purpose except for looking adorable. Something that worked a little too well is the Boogie Bomb. This quickly rose to fame as the most annoying Fortnite item of all time because of one reason. Once thrown down, this would affect an enemy for 10 seconds even if you were shooting them. Nowadays, it cancels the animation once they get damaged, but back then, it was unstoppable. Almost as annoying as grenades and rockets. For just a few days, Epic changed explosives to penetrate structures. This meant you could fire a rocket next to a build, and it would explode outside the box but still damage enemies. It was such a controversial change that they even had to ask players on Reddit if they should remove it or not. The answer, overwhelmingly yes. There is a feature I can't explain though, and it's the secret name of Coral Castle. Yeah, I know everyone hates this place, but when it first got added, it wasn't even called that. For some reason, people loaded in, looked at the map, and were introduced to Carl. Around the same time, we had Coral Buddies on the island. They were adorable, a part of a special challenge that let you use materials to evolve their society. This upgraded them all the way from the Stone Age to a modern-day city. Eventually, they developed a nuclear weapons program to try and defend themselves from outsiders, only for it to literally blow up in their face. From Coral Buddies messing up to Epic's huge mistake, Shadow Stones were a big problem in Season 6. You could use a glitch to turn completely invisible, ruining lobbies for everyone. A fun fact that even OG players don't know about is the original name for V-Bucks. Ever since day one, they've been called this, but during development, they were actually gonna call them Battle Bucks. Speaking of old discoveries, one of the first gliders in Fortnite was hidden in the season shop. You had to get to level 25 just to have the chance to buy this thing. It was supposed to be exclusive to the shop, only for Epic to accidentally bring it back, causing a huge controversy. If you had trouble getting to level 25 back in the day, these would have helped you out. Everyone knows about the Battle Pass tiers hidden in loading screens, but a lot of people forget about XP coins. They were spread around the map, but you could be minding your own business before coming across a giant XP coin. Honestly, the feeling was amazing. They're almost as old as the OG submachine gun. This is such a classic weapon, and it sadly never returned, probably because it was terrible. But that still lasted longer than Fortnite's rarest item. The Eye of the Storm Tracker is a backpack that was only in game for 30 minutes. They accidentally added this, causing a few players to get their hands on it. They let you view the next storm phases with no effort, and Epic straight up panicked, removing this immediately. Now you might think that Avengers was the first ever collab, well that's kinda true. There was still an insane crossover in the same month BR released. Epic invited a ton of content creators to be added to the game, with exclusive banner icons for their logos, like Vanoss Gaming, Muselk, and even PewDiePie. You could wear these banners in Battle Royale, making them the rarest and the first collab. An experience you didn't want to try is the Swing Set of Death. In Greasy Grove, this swing was the only object with physics enabled. No other item could be pushed around like this, and for some reason, this freaked out the anti-cheat. Epic just assumed you were teleporting around, kicking, or even banning players for quote-unquote hacking. cheating.
Wait, what? I got banned. I just got banned.
Thankfully, they came back, unlike the forgotten currency of Fortnite. Long before gold existed, they collaborated with Borderlands, adding cash. You couldn't spend it like you can with gold, but it was still pretty cool for its time. Things get disturbing though when you head over to Sunny Steps, as this POI held a dark secret. You could find a llama being cooked and eaten alive, with its skeletal remains above a campfire. And back in 2018, we got the very first April Fools in Fortnite. They don't do this anymore, but to celebrate the occasion, Epic decided to prank players in the best way. Without telling anyone, they changed impulse grenades to have 10 times more power, causing people to launch themselves straight to their deaths. Things got even worse, with boogie bombs receiving super jump, so all the tryhards trying to get an easy kill were trolled. It wasn't the only time Epic pranked players. Over at Dusty Divot and Greasy Grove, we found ice cream trucks that had 100,000 health. Kinda felt like a glitch, but one of them was making chest noises, so we spent forever trying to break it. Once the van was finally gone, you either got a chest or nothing at all. Now you'll know about the OG TAC shotgun, but you might not remember its hidden secret. This gun had a screen on the side that you couldn't view while in third person. It wasn't until people saw the concept art or went into replay mode that they realized it had a game of Snake on the side. Maybe it's just me, but I felt like we were all obsessed with Fortnite China back in the day because of just how different it was. Thanks to the strict gaming laws, it had no microtransactions, challenges to earn V-Bucks, and exclusive skins. Everyone went crazy over this, with updates always adding something unique, like the removal of Skull Trooper and Mystique's backbling turning into a ball. Now, sadly, it was shut down in 2021, but a feature that had to be removed was OG live events. One of the coolest parts about these were how they took place in real matches. You could genuinely be playing a regular game of BR only for a rocket to take off or a cube to spawn. Nowadays, we have dedicated playlists with immunity, but back then, it caused a disaster, with a world record for solo eliminations being broken by a griefer. As for the most forgotten collab in history, we have the Kingsman umbrella. It got added with basically no announcement. They didn't make a trailer or anything, people just logged in and found a crossover item. It could be used for gliding, attacking, and blocking, which made it super unique, but it was mysteriously never seen again. Epic also quietly shut down a tournament. Friday Fortnite was a huge fan-created competition that kickstarted the careers of people like Tfue and Mongrel. At one point, the tournament was pulling more viewers than The Walking Dead and existed long before official competitions like FNCS. Like I said, sadly, Epic shut it down. Thankfully though, they kept a glitch in the game that is still around to this day. Rocket riding was actually never intended. This was discovered by total accident, yet players loved it. The response was so positive that Epic was basically forced to keep it in. And ever since, you could practically rocket ride anything, from battle bus rockets to the Cybertron cannon. And that's not even the weirdest item. There was once a random mythic that no one remembers. In the Impossible Escape LTM, you could find the Raptor Claw. Sounds like a weapon, right? No, it was a useless quest item that you had to deliver to an NPC. Because of how meaningless this is, most players never even knew it existed. Just like they don't know about Fortnite on a disc. As a free game, you wouldn't expect this to be on store shelves, but for the first couple of weeks, it was. There are people out there who seriously own Fortnite for Xbox One, and it sells on eBay now for thousands of dollars. Over in Season 8, you'll remember the Unvaulting event, but there was a whole build-up that brought the community together. Puzzles appeared around the map asking us to emote or pickaxe runes with millions of health to move it. Eventually, this all led up to the unlocking of the vault. One of my personal favorite OG items is also a reference to Metal Gear Solid. Creeping Cardboard was randomly added in 2020, allowing us to hide inside a box and throw down for extra camouflage. Not only was this a nod to Solid Snake's iconic tactic, but it was a decent strategy, and they even brought it back in Chapter 5 with the official collab. For anyone still in the mood to prank players, you were actually able to harass your own teammates. For a massive chunk of the first season, team killing was enabled and it was chaotic. People would wipe out their own squad either as a joke or, let's be honest, it was to steal their loot. That's because arguing over a rare item was way more deadly back then. Dying to that sucks, but it would be even worse with the Star Wand pickaxe. In Chapter 4, this is simply known as an item that sweats use, but it had a more sinister purpose in 2019 when people realized how destructive it was. The Star Wand, for no reason, was able to deal 56 damage. You could knock someone in only a few hits, or if you got lucky enough to headshot them, it could take players out in seconds. A feature that was completely forgotten was punch cards. These were really helpful in Chapter 2, helping us get a ton of XP simply for playing the game. Now they've been replaced with milestones zones, which are arguably super boring in comparison. But we did get a ton of excitement from Chapter 2's traps. A lot of these went under the radar, like the fire trap, which could burn down a build in seconds, or the poison dart that would literally shoot marshmallows on enemies. Still not as annoying as stretched res. Pro players found a way to edit their file settings and glitch the game to give them an advantage. Made every stream look warped, but they claimed people were easier to hit with a higher FOV. Whether that was true, we don't exactly know, but Epic was concerned enough to ban it anyway. Just like they were worried about the controversy surrounding police cars. In 2020, we had a lot of things happening around the world, and it caused Epic to move them into the vault. We haven't seen them since, but there were two different versions over the years that never got to be drivable. They've appeared in trailers like the Futurama collab, causing speculation that they would return, but I'm not holding my breath. Let's take it back to the first ever secret area in Fortnite. Near Tomato Town, there was a tunnel that cut through a cliff. It was totally normal looking, but if you broke the wall, it revealed a hidden area with chests and ammo boxes. Since this day, we have been keeping an eye out for more secret rooms. Speaking of records, the Icon series didn't actually begin with Ninja. It all started in the Season 3 Battle Pass. There was an emoticon that simply looks like a math equation until CDN the Third came across it.
No, they didn't.
Oh, no way.
No, they didn't. Open bracket, plus sign, close bracket. Let's go.
Wait, look what it says.
Positivity, have a phenomenal gaming experience. Let's go.
And if you don't know CDN the Third, let's just say he's the guy who exposed how OP pump shotguns used to be.
24, I'll take that crit. What's up, cousin? Yeah, let's go!
Yeah, they can do max damage from across the map. I mean, this wasn't even a shotgun anymore, it was a sniper. One of the craziest facts is how the suppressed pistol and boogie bomb are older than Tilted Towers. Yeah, this wasn't always around, despite it feeling like it lasted all of Chapter 1. Tilted was added in Season 2, and before then, the area was just a huge open plot of land. Was it the only thing missing back in the day? If you ran out of materials, it wouldn't automatically switch to the next one. So, you could be building, only to die to fall damage out of nowhere. Some Chapter 2 players will definitely miss side grading though. This is a pretty forgotten feature that only lasted a couple of seasons, but instead of improving your weapon's rarity, you can swap your items out for a completely different one. People love this, and maybe it'll come back in the future just like OG Factories, the most famous classic drop spot of Fortnite. If you played in 2018, you know about this place. It was an unnamed POI, yet tons of people landed here, especially before Tilted. It was so popular, Epic even brought it back in Season X. Now you might have heard me mention this throughout the video, but we gotta talk about the Season Shop. This was the first version of the item shop with a catch. You had to level up just to unlock the cosmetics, and then you could pay for it with V-Bucks. Total mess, and every outfit was exclusive to the season it dropped in, so basically this was an early version of the Battle Pass, and thankfully they changed it. Still not as chaotic as the Risky Reels chest challenge. For some reason, no one at Epic thought it was a bad idea to lock the first secret skin behind a ridiculous quest. You had to open 7 chests that risky, causing the whole lobby to land here and try to complete it. Borderline impossible, and Epic even referenced it years later in this legacy achievement. So at this point, you're probably an OG, that means you'll definitely remember Orange Justice. Let's be honest, most Chapter 1 players know about this. It was the dance of the year, and the story was incredible. The Orange Shirt Kid entered the Boogie Down contest, was thought to be the clear winner, only to be ignored by Epic. The outrage from the community was so big, they added it to the Battle Pass with the name Justice. A much different ending was the fate of the Block. I'm not talking about the one from Tilted Towers, I mean the original POI that was in the game for quite some time. Every week we got a new design made by the community, and it was incredible. Some map makers even hid bonus looted secrets so you would drop at their location. But things went too far when one creator added a controversial scene in a basement, causing headlines to point it out and Fortnite to remove the place entirely. Maybe you might have known that, but there's some players who have never heard of the Golden Mushroom. It was one of the rarest items in Chapter 2 with a 1 in 10,000 chance of spawning. So if you were lucky enough to find it, you would earn 100 shield in a second. And there was a detail hidden in almost every OG skin out there, which no one really talks about. A tiny tradition that was even in Fortnite's logo, dog tags. People look back on this years later only to realize they're gone. We have no idea why, but now that I pointed it out, you'll never stop seeing it. Controversial, but also not. I just wish 100% chest spawns were still in the game. This was one of the best features in Chapter 2, allowing us to land at the same place every game and find chests in a guaranteed spot. POIs are more interesting and fun to land at, and nowadays you can land at your favorite place and have literally no loot. But back then, 100% chest spawn allowed us to create our own personalized drop spot that didn't rely on stupid stupid RNG. Don't worry, I know I could not make a video on things OGs remember without bringing up Double Pump. It's a strat that dominated Fortnite's meta for months, and some people claim that its removal ruined everything. We'd love to see this back for a week, maybe even in a custom mode, because it was honestly fun. Being able to pump, then switch and fire again immediately, so satisfying. Then we have the most famous weapon of Chapter 1, which is only in the game for a couple of days. There's only a handful of real clips out there with the Zapatron, that's how rare it is. If you were lucky enough to genuinely use this, you deserve a medal. Since they removed it, Fortnite has teased its return countless times, only to never bring it back, so maybe next season will fix that. By now, we're all familiar with the Chug Cannon and Bandage Bazooka, but would you believe me if I told you there's a secret third version? In the Bodyguard LTM, you can find a mythic that only uses one inventory slot, but after just a few hours, it was deleted because of how broken it was. Another weapon everyone forgot about existed for less than a few weeks. In Season 2, Spy Games had a bunch of tech just like perks we have today, but with insane luck, you would unlock the suppressor and trusty dual wield at the same time. This revealed one of the rarest weapons in the game, dual suppressed pistols. Well, that's not the only unique feature Epic removed, because in Season 9, you could eliminate people with water balloons. They're usually a toy emote, but when the Splashdown LTM released, they were turned into a deadly weapon. That's not as weird as the day Fortnite removed an entire POI by accident. After a normal update, everyone jumped in to find Believer Beach and Holly Hedges had been wiped out. I'm not talking about destroyed either, they literally vanished. You might also remember the Octane collab, but did you know Rocket League put another car into Fortnite? During Llama Rama, there was a house on the island with a huge fan living there. You can find posters, trophies, and a one-of-a-kind Whiplash Super Circuit. If you don't remember it, you probably also missed out on a free battle pass. At the end of Season 7, the Share the Love event gave out some Valentine's rewards, and to compete with the launch of Apex Legends, they did something insane by giving Season 8's battle pass to everyone for free. But who remembers the time Fortnite forced you outside to earn V-Bucks? In Season 5, they added PCB challenges where you could earn battle stars, an exclusive contrail, and 350 V-Bucks. All you had to do was some simple quests. Seems easy, right? Well, there was one problem. They had to be completed at PCB computer cafes, which are in South Korea. Even that had more fans than people who remember Storm Destruction. This was only in the game for half a day, which isn't surprising when you find out what it did. If a match went on for too long, every build in the Storm was deleted and completely ruined endgames. As for the fireworks flare gun, you probably remembered this as a Chapter 3 weapon, but for OG players, it's even more familiar. Epic actually did this in 2018 for July 4th by reskinning the grenade launcher to shoot fireworks. It wasn't that impressive because hardly anyone noticed. In Chapter 1, there was a structure that couldn't be destroyed. When the cube first arrived, it crushed this innocent hut, but that wasn't the end of its story. Over the weeks and months, it slowly rebuilt, this time with upgrades. All of this just for the black hole to take it all away again. At least it returned as a coffee shop. These mini map changes are always forgotten about, and the same can be said for the meeting. North of Wailing Woods, you can find a scarecrow, teddy bear, and gargoyle sitting in a circle. It's always pretty creepy, but they got wiped out when the volcano arrived. I'll admit, nothing's worse than forgetting about a mythic item while it's still in the game. A lot of people dislike the Primal season, but one thing everyone could agree on is how useless the Spire jump boots were. They let you double jump and glide, but the real problem was how you got them. You had to defeat a Spire Guardian across the map, then carry the orb to the main tower just to waste an inventory slot. I mean, no wonder they were hated. Sometimes Epic just likes to experiment with things, and that's why you probably don't remember the Teams of 12 LTM. Yeah, this was actually a thing and worked like 50v50, but instead of 2 teams, there were 8 of them. They even made other versions like Teams of 20 and 33, but they must have not been popular because they never returned. The same can be said about gliding. Epic tested a feature in Season 6 that gave everyone unlimited glider redeploy in all modes. It made mobility a lot easier and encouraged more fights, but after the test ended, they decided it was too much and tried it as an item instead. Of course, that didn't last long either. You also had to be in the item shop over 1,500 days ago to pick up the rarest back bling. The Buckle Bundle was only sold 3 times in Fortnite history and hasn't been seen since 2018. We also never saw the return of Renegade Raider's secret item. Back in Season 3, the servers went out for over 24 hours, and the Rust Bucket backbling was given to players for 0 V-Bucks. You probably didn't realize that it's not the only backbling for Rust Lord, but Renegade Raider as well. Now let's flip the script. Epic also promised us a storyline trailer every month, but I guess forgot about it. When Burning Wolf was introduced with the first shadows, he came with his own special animated trailer and revealed Midas's clear voice. We were told there would be more for the others, but we we never saw anything come of it, and they even deleted the video a few days later. Epic seems to have a problem with removing things, and the upgrade bench suffered the same fate. We all know about the ones that used to be on the map, but did you know there was a throwable version? Spoiler, they completely broke the game and only lasted for one season before getting vaulted. There are so many vaulted items that you probably forgot the time you could clone yourself. The Spy season added a ton of interesting things, but one of the most underrated was decoy nades. You could literally create exact copies of yourself to trick enemies into shooting the wrong one. Another forgotten item is the Minty Pickaxe. This thing was infamous for becoming one of the most sought after items in the game, with endless giveaways, codes for sale, even GameStop being sold out. It was based on one of the most popular pickaxes and never sold in the item shop, which generated a ridiculous amount of hype, with some codes being sold for hundreds of dollars. Even the default dance isn't safe from the vault. You might know how the emo is different music each time you use it, but it originally had a third track. It sounded identical to Faith by George Michael, so Epic were forced to delete it. Ninja also found himself deleted by Tfue when the two pros ran into each other in a real game in Chapter 1. It was a fight everyone had been asking for, and let me tell you, it didn't disappoint. A legendary moment for sure, but not as special as the Lost Golden Umbrella. There were so many rumors about how to get it, from winning 100 games to getting a bunch of limbs, but it was never released to the public. If you were truly a veteran player, you would probably remember how simple Season 1 of Fortnite was. But what you might have forgotten about is the dancing aliens around the map. For a few days, you'd be able to go to a television and see these creatures on them, which was a reference to Save the World. And it doesn't end there. There was a super subtle change in 2019 that nobody noticed. Every single car around the island was converted to electric. Even though they still had exhaust pipes, all of the vehicles were next to electric chargers, and it seemed like this was a subtle way for Epic to be environmentally friendly until cars actually became drivable and were powered by gas. And if you go back even further to Season 1, there's a class of students that were addicted to Fortnite. They'd spend all the time playing it until their teacher, Mr. Hillman, had enough. So he asked Epic Games to send them a message, and a few days later, this appeared on the Fortnite loading screen. Even OG players will remember this one because it was just such a small Easter egg. In Season 2 of Battle Royale, players found an indestructible suitcase hiding in a shipping container. It was impossible to break, and inside of the suitcase was a conveyor belt full of vegetables that nobody really knows why this was here, and over 4 years later, there's still no answer. Something that'll definitely give you nostalgia is the faces from Chapter 1. Back in the day, there were various POIs around the map with faces built into them, like Paradise Palms, Polar Peak, and even Sunny Steps. Another thing that'll have you reminiscing is looking back at Chapter 1's trap towers. A lot of people began to build skyscrapers that were covered in spike traps from head to toe, and if anyone walked in and jumped on the launch pad, they'd be eliminated instantly. And moving forward, we have Season 9, the Futuristic Island with Neo Tilted and Mega Mall. But there was way more than just these two POIs. The map included new areas called hotspots, and if you went there, you'd see drones flying around. If you shot them down, you get some pretty awesome loot, and a lot of people don't know this is where they all started. But nothing will be as useful as one of the most forgotten Fortnite features of all time, Bud the Mushroom. In Chapter 2, Bud could be found in the woods and would follow you around while healing you. He was really overpowered, but was only in the game for a single day before being deleted forever. Even Bud was more appreciated than the original design of the Burst Assault Rifle. In Chapter 1, it looked like this. It became extremely iconic until Chapter 2 when the Burst was completely ruined. I mean, we didn't even realize what we had until it was gone. And it wasn't the only thing to be reskinned. Fortnite has had a few items over the years that have been super unique and barely anyone remembers them. During Laserbeam's Super Knockback Tournament, you were able to find a reskinned Flint Knock pistol that was called the Exotic Flint Knock. It was only in this mode and sent players absolutely flying. Meanwhile, in the endgame LCM, Epic Games developed a new item called the Shatari Jetpack. It was pretty much just a reskin of the original. When Season 4 came along, it was reskinned again into the Start Jetpack. Most people remember Season 4's Mythics, but not many will bring up these jetpacks. And you are a true OG if you remember the fake item that trolled everyone. Back in 2018, there was a rumored bright bag that was called one of the rarest items in Fortnite. This rumor spread like wildfire as people suggested the only way to get it was by hunting down every llama in a single match. The chances are like borderline impossible. Obviously this wasn't real, but it was one of the oldest conspiracy theories in Fortnite. And one of the most famous moments back in the day was when Ninja hit an insane clip with a revolver. Reminds me of how Myth was put on the map. Back then, everyone agreed he was one of the best builders in the game, all thanks to his iconic 1v1 against Summit 1G.
I will die if he notices me, though, which should be very easy to notice me, to be honest. Let's go this way. What the f? He keeps building higher. Stop building so fucking high! Stop it!
What's happening? He kept building up and building up and building up, and I couldn't catch him. 14 happened.
Pokimane is one of the most popular creators in Fortnite, but no one realizes she's in the game. While she might not have a skin, Chapter 2 handed us a secret emote taken straight from Poki's contest submission. But how many of you remember one of the most fun combos of Chapter 1? When they introduced shopping carts as the very first vehicle in Fortnite, we all had the same idea. What happens if you build a mega ramp and ride down?
Yo, it's so bad. He's coming up! He's coming up! Ah! Ah! Yeah!
Now that I've learned about the secret of Fatal Fields, I can never unsee it. As you probably know, the original BR map was designed by a tiny team of developers. That explains why you could grab the design of Fatal and compare it to Anarchy Acres. It is literally the same POI, just with the buildings rearranged. You gotta be a diehard fan to remember the story behind Haunted Hills. This was a super popular location in Chapter 1, especially with how creepy it was. But turns out, it was also one of the first POIs to be designed by a fan. A Redditor named Blorfy dropped a sketch for a castle on a hill. An Epic employee commented on this and appreciated the name Haunted Hills, and a season later, it was here, just a little different from the original. That's not even the most heartwarming story about a fan concept. In Season 6, an 8-year-old boy named Connor posted an adorable idea for a skin. He said, "Dear Fortnite, please add a skin called the Chicken Trooper," and got over 43,000 upvotes. I mean, that's basically impossible for Epic to ignore. It got even crazier when an artist named Etsy Turtle stepped in, turning Chicken Trooper into a full outfit named the Tender Defender. This version got even more upvotes than the original one. Naturally, a few months later, Connor logged into Fortnite, and there it was. His Chicken Trooper was finally real.
Is that yours?
It's in the game!
You did it, dude.
Is that what it looked like?
Yeah.
But I seriously missed the early days of Fortnite's Playground mode. This was the very first version of Creative, and even though it was super limited, that didn't stop people from going crazy with it. For weeks, YouTubers like Scissors would build entire obstacle courses in Playground made of regular old Fortnite materials. Looking back, this was insanely impressive. In keeping with Chapter 1, it was impossible to build if something was in the way. One of the most annoying things about early Fortnite was a rogue tree, or even something small like a fence or a car. These would make your builds go red and ruin an entire fight. Something that barely anyone remembers was an LTM that paved the way for Zero Build. During 14 days of Fortnite, Epic dropped Ground Game and it limited you to 30 wood, 20 stone, and 20 metal. It was basically their test run for Zero Build, which is why you might be shocked it's forgotten about. So was crouch peeking. In 2018, the game was taken over by this glitch, allowing players to just straight up shoot people without ever being seen. While most of us peek from our builds, this bug allowed you to shoot straight through them. It was actually Tfue who popularized it.
Dude.
But for the OGs who were there from the very beginning, you might want to check your locker because there was a secret Minecraft collab in 2017 that less than 1% of players have. Just 1 month before Battle Royale came out, Fortnite hosted that Search for Survivors event I mentioned earlier, and everyone could choose a creator to support. If you pick Chaos Flow 44 as your commander, you would earn this free banner, a Minecraft watermelon. Something that'll definitely bring back old memories is the most controversial backbling in Fortnite history. When pets were first brought to the game in Season 6, everyone loved them, and the most popular pet was this little guy, Bonesy. That is when things got ugly. In Season X, Epic Games released a new backbling into the item shop called Gunner, and what happened next was unlike anything we had ever seen before. Gunner was almost identical to Bonesy with just a few color changes. The worst part, Fortnite wanted you to pay 1,000 V-Bucks for it. This sparked an outrage, and within hours, Epic were forced to refund everyone and deleted the backbling forever. They even gave people an extra 200 V-Bucks for the inconvenience. And if you're really feeling nostalgic, you'd have to be a day one player to remember this part of the game. There used to be a crash battle bus on the side of a mountain in Chapter 1, and it was there for quite a while, but most people took the chest and didn't pay attention to it. Looking back, I can't believe that I forgot about this place. It is bringing back so many memories. But if we're talking about classic updates, we can't ignore the Midas Flopper. It was one of the most sought after fish in Fortnite history, but it was extremely rare. This was added in Chapter 2, and you could only get it in a specific part of the map. Not to mention, you only had a 1% chance of getting it with a pro fishing rod. But when Season 4 ended, the authority was actually removed from the map, with no one realizing what this meant. The Midas Flopper would be gone forever. Some of you might never have heard about the Mako glider. This was originally exclusive to the Season 1 rewards for reaching level 25, but a month after the season ended, it suddenly appeared in the shop, giving people a chance to grab the glider who didn't earn it. Epic panicked and removed it, making it one of the rarest gliders in Fortnite. And one event was so memorable that even people who didn't play Fortnite in 2018 know about it. This was Marshmello Live at Pleasant Park, the first concert ever in-game. Not only was this an incredible chance to listen to Marshmello with your friends, but they also introduced special effects like low gravity, fireworks, and a live feed of his voice. Before, live events had never affected players like that. It blew our minds. But the Easter eggs back then were also surprising. In fact, some of them were straight up terrifying. All it took was a simple room to creep everyone out. In Wailing Woods, you can no-clip through the wall and find this teddy bear staring at the mirror. No thoughts behind those dead eyes. There was no explanation for why this room existed, and to this day, we haven't gotten answers. When Fortnite was at its peak popularity, literally everybody was playing it. This includes huge celebrities like Drake. In case you somehow forgot, in the early days, Ninja and Drake teamed up to play a few Fortnite games and stream it on Twitch. It was a monumental moment for the game, with some players arguing this was the reason Fortnite went viral. Honestly, considering how it blew up that summer, they might be right.
Got it, baby.
Yeah, there we go. Let's get it, man.
Let's go, baby.
Ninja became so influential after this that Fortnite designed entire live events around his streams. They waited for him to be playing a live tournament, and once the moment was right, he watched Kevin the Cube spawn in front of thousands of people.
Bro, is this an event? What just happened? This is the tournament. What is that? Look, dude, I don't care. We're going here. What's happening? They calculate, this is calculated.
That may have given him a disadvantage in the tournament, but some items created wide-scale problems, like the boombox in Chapter 1. It obliterated structures and basically made a temporary zero build zone all the way back in 2019. Players were not happy, and Epic listened to feedback, vaulting the item permanently. It didn't even return for the OG season, and neither did bottle rockets. You could throw these on the ground and launch a barrage of rockets at someone. It was best used for taking down builds, except it kinda sucked. The only way to make these useful was spamming them, but after 2 were active, throwing more down would force the others to disappear. Literally no one picked these up. Unlike the original SMG, and I'm not talking about the one you think is OG, there's a weapon before it that everyone forgot about. You could only find this classic SMG in the early days, and if you ignore the Zapatron, it was technically the first weapon ever to be vaulted. But if you own the Season 4 Battle Pass, you're probably kicking yourself for not grabbing the fully upgraded Omega. This was one of the first outfits to ever be upgradable with edit styles, and if you wanted the full armor set, you had to make it to level 80 even after you finished the pass. You don't have to be an OG to remember this next update though, because it could only be found in South Korea. For whatever reason, random posters appeared around the country showing Chris Pratt advertising Fortnite. He's not even in the game, so what is he doing here? But this small forest outside of Fatal might contain the most hidden detail in the whole of Chapter 1. Everyone remembers the hidden animals around the map like a fox or a crab, but absolutely no one has heard of the secret rabbit. After destroying all of these trees, a giant outline in the ground appeared. Building high enough to view this, we could see the outline of a bunny. This was so hidden that when a Redditor finally discovered it years later, it went viral. Fast forward to Season 7, and we were introduced to our first mythic item, the Infinity Blade, but it was also the most broken item out there. Fortnite straight up designed a weapon that was impossible to fight against. They gave you 400 HP, super jump, health regeneration. It was insane, and to make things worse, they enabled it during $1 million tournament. You can already guess how it went.
He has picked up 8 eliminations, 10 eliminations. It doesn't matter anymore. This is Psalm's world, and we are just merely living in it.
It's not the only way Season 7 freaked players out. If you were around back then, you'll definitely remember the Stormwings. These were one of the worst received vehicles ever added to Fortnite outside of mechs. They had unlimited fuel, could smash through builds with no consequences, and had a machine gun you could spam forever. Players still consider this one of the worst times to play Fortnite because every game was just pure chaos. I mean, hey, it was part of the fun. And besides, every new season feels like that nowadays. But I'll leave you with one of the most nostalgic things in all of Fortnite, the original main menu and its music. What did you score out of everything I talked about in this video? I know it was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed. It's been Tommy, and keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.